And now it's time to get a macro perspective on what else is happening around us in the world. For this morning's World Deconstructed, we're joined by Dr. David Tizzard. Good morning, David, and happy Wednesday.
Good morning, Lena. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. Back in your suit.
Getting there, yes, back to work, back to doing the things that we do. I am professor again today rather than a beach bum drinking beer. But it's been lovely.
It was lovely while it lasted. All right, let's get started, David. I guess it's only natural for us to pivot back to the church. We talked about Buddhism. Now we talk about the Catholic Church. But you also want to put a different spin on this. Maybe it's appropriate for us to raise this point. Before Pope Francis, the late Pope, there wasn't a non-European Pope in nearly 13 centuries. So it is fair to say perhaps the Catholic Church is big on tradition, respecting what some may view as foundation of the religion and respecting that.
Absolutely, I agree. And many people put the tradition going all the way back to Jesus Christ himself. Now, yesterday we spoke about Buddhism because it's Buddha's birthday here in South Korea over the last couple of days. And that's a tradition. It has been a national religion here in South Korea for 1,000 years until the start of the Joseon dynasty. And so change does happen. But what we're looking at today as we shift to Catholicism is while Catholic cardinals gather in Rome following the death of Pope Francis, a critical question rises. And it's not whether the next Pope will be from Latin America, Europe, or possibly even South Korea, but it's will the next Pope open the door to women becoming deacons or even priests. It's understandable that the next pope will not be a woman. So will the Roman Catholic Church continue to uphold a hierarchical structure that remains exclusively male at the highest levels of power, or will there be some change taking place?
David, I remember one picture at Pope Francis's funeral. I think it was a nun who broke a Vatican protocol when she approached Pope Francis's casket to say goodbye. And she was a close friend of Pope Francis, where I understand, Sister Genevieve Jennings. And that was a big moment because no nun was allowed to approach the Pope's casket prior to this very moment. And in the long history, Catholicism has existed.
Yeah, so perhaps let's say something about Pope Francis. When he was elected in 2013, he inherited a church facing growing disillusionment among its members, not only due to the various sex abuse scandals and declining faith in the West, but also because of the church's seeming unwillingness to address gender inequality within its own ranks. So over the decade-long papacy that Pope Francis saw, he took some, let's say, cautious but significant steps. He allowed women into senior Vatican roles. He gave them voting rights in the Synod of Bishops. He appointed some female heads of key departments, which had been seen as rather unprecedented moves by others. He also commissioned studies into the possibility of female deacons. But while these measures, they were symbolically powerful, I should say, they ultimately stopped short of any kind of structural reform. No woman has yet been ordained as a deacon or priest. In a 2024 interview last year with CBS, Pope Francis delivered a flat no on the answer of female deacons. So as some analysts and critics have put it, Pope Francis, he unlocked the door, but he never actually opened it to greater women involvement in the Catholic Church.
And the conclave that goes to vote on the next pope, it all consists of male.
Only men can vote for the next pope, and only men can vote for one. The entire College of Cardinals, the body responsible for choosing the next pontiff, is male. And so while some cardinals, they do support expanded roles for women, few have actually taken public stands on the issue. And amongst the clergy, there's no consensus. I think one of the interesting things is the changing reality that we're seeing around the world. Women are already actually running Catholic institutions in many countries. They teach young children, they manage parishes, they coordinate relief efforts, they care for the elderly, they care for the disabled and the needy, especially in the parts of the world where the male clergy are in short supply. So we know that the Catholic Church itself, or at least the the really important groundwork that it does on the day-to-day level, that would not run without the women involved in the church. So the church has actually already changed in reality, but will it change in its applications at the highest level?
Should we maybe start making some comparisons how other religions handle female leadership? I grew up when I was younger Methodist, and we certainly had female deacons. We had female pastors.
Yep. If you compare Catholicism, it's one of the largest to other world religions. Catholicism is one of the largest global religions to maintain a universal ban on ordaining women. And as I say, that's despite its vast female workforce and the declining number of male priests. It might be a demographic change that ultimately does something. But in Protestant Christianity, and again, I'm generalizing here because as you've rightly said, there are so many different branches and applications and denominations of the religions. To give you one example of Protestantism, in 2022, the Church of England appointed its first female Bishop of London. That's the third most senior role in that communion, and many Anglicans and, like you say, Methodists already ordain women as priests, pastors, and even bishops. In Judaism, some branches of that, Reform and Conservative branches, have ordained women as rabbis since the 1970s. Some parts of Islam do that, especially in China. You'll find a lot of women-led mosques in parts of China. Hinduism and Buddhism, particularly the Mahayana branch, like here in South Korea or parts of China, you can find fully ordained nuns in those traditions, although Theravada Buddhism remains a bit stricter. So there's different ways of looking at it, but the Catholic Church is rather one of the ones that's exclusively male only.
All right. And the road ahead is not just clear cut, and the conversation will only evolve and continue to back and forth. This balancing act between tradition and reform. Also, it's about the changing dynamics and the changing conversations. How does perhaps different demographics, the younger generation, next generation, feel about Catholicism keeping just its old roots and not necessarily listening to perhaps more female leadership, a stronger position, perhaps?
It's a very interesting conversation because this is not just about theology. This is about institutional survival. This is about moral authority. And also, as you've rightly said, Lena, this is about cultural legitimacy in an ever-changing world. So supporters of reform of the Catholic Church, they argue that allowing women greater access to the church's power structures, it will help encourage younger people to be engaged with the church, and it will support broader global movements towards gender equity and equality. However, opponents have come out and said that this is not a question of rights or progress or social justice, but of sacred tradition with roots that these people argue go back to Jesus himself. So as the cardinals, as they're meeting in Rome, they're not just choosing a new pope, they're deciding what kind of church the Catholic faith will be in the 21st century. Will it be one that holds on to the past or one that steps more fully into the present? It's very interesting that a lot of our conversations will revolve around female presence on boards of directors, in academic panels, on our TV screens and our radio stations and such forth. But here we have one of the world's largest institutions that up until now has retained a male-only dominance over its hierarchical structures.
David, thank you so much for taking us back to the Vatican this morning. We appreciate your insights as always. Happy Wednesday to you. We'll speak to you again tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.